Introduction. Look, shall we move on to the Middle East? And I'll go to you. First of all, on this, Peter Dutton's obviously running very hard at the moment on the possibility that non-citizens may have been involved in the display of support for Hezbollah's leadership, particularly Hassan Nasrallah, obviously killed last weekend. He also seems to be arguing for a toughening of laws on the display of hate symbols. But there's no evidence yet, is there, Anne Webster, that any foreign national or visa holder, if you like, participated in those protests in that way, is there?
Well, of course, this is for the AFP, who are investigating those who participated in these awful protests. And I say awful quite deliberately because Hezbollah has been listed as a terrorist organisation. Nobody in Australia should be walking the streets with Hezbollah flags. Let's be really clear about that. If they're Australian citizens, they ought to be charged accordingly under the criminal law. And if they're not citizens of Australia, then absolutely they ought to be deported. If they're not going to welcome, or I think it's really about being grateful for what Australia provides for them as a socially cohesive nation. Generally speaking, we have worked very hard at that for many, many, many decades, and we certainly don't want it being ripped away now.
All right. Tanya, what do you think this is leading to? And does the government, in fact, rule out the deportation of non-citizens if they were found to have breached the law or behaved inappropriately even at those protests last weekend?
Well, I think the Minister for Immigration has already spoken to those, who are on visas. They have special conditions that, give them the privilege of being in Australia. Where the AFP concludes that there has been a crime committed, that will obviously go through its usual process and of review. But I think the message in terms of the general point that you're asking, I think I share the same position as Anne. Like, we condemn any promotion and glorification of terrorist organisations. It's now against the law, and we are a nation of law. Like, we follow the law. And that's what helps, ensure that we live in a harmonious, socially cohesive way. So I think it's more about stepping back from the immediate angst that we're, hearing and feeling amongst our communities, but staying true to our values and recognising that with the laws that we have, it is against the law now. We've introduced that, they've been passed, that it is against the law to be glorifying and publicly displaying flags and promoting terrorist organisations. Yeah.
Is it your belief, Anne, that the laws, which are very fresh and untested, really, are inadequate, that the threshold for proving hatred and intimidation when holding up a flag or a symbol, that bar is too high for prosecutions?
Well, I think the point is that every law that is made needs to be tested, and inevitably it will go to the courts and it will be tested.
Right, but Peter
you have
Dutton,
to
just to interrupt there,
and
Peter Dutton is the one who's saying maybe we need to recall the Parliament and rework these laws already. I'm just wondering on what basis that is asserted.
Well, I think that Peter Dutton has said that he is willing, if it proves that the laws are not watertight, so to speak, that he is prepared to come back and to ensure that the gaps are removed. And that's how activated he is and we are on the coalition. We don't want to see what took place with the visas, I'll call it a debacle with regard to Gaza, taking place now in Lebanon as people come out. We don't want them to come out here on tourist visas without proper checks and security checks before they come.
How does this play in